What is up, YouTube? Welcome to Sidekicks Talk Comics, where this week we're going to discuss cameos versus first appearance. And join with me, as always, is my co-host Rob. And we got some changes coming to our show. Go ahead and tell them about the changes, Rob.
Well, first of all, I don't feel right if I don't say, "Hey there, comic friends and fiends." So let me get that out of the way. So we listened to what your guys' feedback was and some of our own observations in watching our show, and we found that we were trying to pack maybe a little bit too much in a half an hour, going too fast, not interacting with you guys all enough. And so we're going to basically just remove one of our talking points, have one discussion point in the middle, try to purposefully engage not only with one another but with you guys more during that process, so we get you more, and of course continue to listen to your guys' feedback. We see in the feed, we're running down here. I see DJ Links. Who do you see?
I got Super Jesse. We got Remy Q. What's up, Jeremy?
I see Gary B, the casual guy. I feel like Romper Room.
Right.
I see Bobby Willie. And Jenny. James Willie. Legion of Comics.
Digger Jim.
Yeah.
Jacob, what's going on, guys? So this week we're going to be discussing, cameos versus first appearances. And really, rookie mistake. We're going to go over our new comic books first, which is real short for me. We got my comic book store sucks. The one closest. I got Batman Future State #4. And guess what? I got another copy of that one comic. I went in there, and they had no comics on the new comic book wall. While I was there, I picked up this because I heard it was good. Taskmaster #1. I still got to find #2 and 3. So, yeah. I got to make a drive Saturday to a real comic book store.
Hey there, Procrastinate and Sold Twice and Comic Collector. See you guys popping in. I got the Black Knight, the facsimile. I like to collect these facsimiles. Not only is it a good chance to read it, but I'll be damned if not surprised if actually a lot of them are actually valuable, right. or not. I mean, not like valuable, but I mean, they end up in a very short order. There's a fair number of them that end up being like $20, $30 comics. So hey, what the heck? King in Black, Batman, Catwoman. Cool. The Jim Lee cover, and then the third cover, and the 12th cover. No, just
got the Mask of the Phantasm there on the cover.
That's right. The next Batman, and then the cover that you had there. It was definitely a DC heavy week for me this week. The Catwoman, and Nightwing. And Nightwing, and that was it. I mean, it was very DC heavy for me, that's for sure.
There's nothing wrong with DC.
No,
yeah, just ask Mark at Legion of Comics. He's one of the few guys in the community that are pro DC with us. So,
well, what's nice is it's going to give me a chance to get caught up on. I've pretty much only had the Future State books left up there stacked up. We're coming up to the end of that run. I got almost nothing but Future State stuff in, so that just means that I actually can start cracking in to some of this Future State stuff this week in my reading.
There you go. So our topic this week is the cameo versus first appearance. And me being me, I do a little bit too much research sometimes. And, when I look up, you look up the definition of cameo. The definition of cameo via Webster Dictionary is a small part in a play, a movie, a story, played by a distinguished actor or celebrity. So, first of all, the definition of cameo has nothing to do with first. So how in the world are we using the word cameo to define a first appearance or first of anyone?
Because we're not.
Isn't a cameo like Stan Lee being in a movie? Isn't that a cameo?
Yes, but there's not. But a cameo isn't necessarily first. I think where you're misconstruing here is that, well, yes, oftentimes
it's a brief appearance.
Oftentimes a character's first appearance is in a cameo. Not always, but oftentimes. It does not necessarily mean, though, a cameo is. There's lots of cameos that happen all the time, but it doesn't make it a key. Where the cameo is a key is when it is oftentimes their first or second time that they show up in the book. So when you're talking about, Mary Jane or whatever else, Spider-Man 25, the first cameo that's appearance there. And this is where when we get into this topic, you can get really kind of messed up, because we talk about first appearances and people will say, well, that's the cameo. And then they'll talk about the first full appearance as if it's, but they don't specify. They'll just call it first appearance, when in reality, that cameo, like Hulk 180, I'm sorry, people, get it through your brain. Hulk 180 is the first appearance of Wolverine.
It is.
It's a cameo. It's a
like,
cameo, but it's the first appearance. Hulk 181 is the first full appearance. That's the delineation. And that's where we get into trouble, is that we've shortcutted it, short chopped it to say first appearance is 181, but then there was this other appearance before. That's not.
And there's a huge difference in price. Like at a 7.0, I think it was 180. I think I have it written down here because I did homework. Look at me. $800 to $1,000 for the cameo, or first appearance, right? And then 181's $4,000 to $4,500. There's a huge difference in price.
Well, so typically in comics, and I'm going to be very careful. We use my DJ or I saw DJ Link's names pop up for a second. I have my salesman motif for here. So, and to never use absolutes, because except to say that I never use absolutes. So typically when we talk about a cameo, we're talking about an introduction to a character. When we're talking about the first appearance cameo, right? Where might be in other times or just in cameo, they're there, but they're not integral to the story. If you removed that cameo appearance, would that affect the story significantly? It shouldn't.
No. So
that it's typically a teaser, 1 to 2 panels, maybe, right? That's what we're talking about. Sith deals in absolutes. So do salespeople sometimes, but good salespeople never use absolutes.
Right?
They always give themselves wiggle rooms, and you complain later.
Exactly.
I said most of the time.
I said 99.9% of the time.
Generally,
yeah.
So cameo, that's what we're talking about, right? It's not integral story. Whereas the first full appearance is going to be typically someone who the character is going to appear in multiple frames, multiple pages,
background.
They're integral. They're not just in the background.
No, the story, like some story to them.
Yeah, they're integral to the story. If you removed that character from the story, it wouldn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Or it would severely impact the story. So that's the typical true when we talk about comic books, where that threshold should be. And when you do that, that applies in most cases.
Now, what about now? How do you feel about, like, this is the big debate, right? The first appearance of Gambit. What is it? X-Men Annual 14?
Yeah. So no, X-Men Annual 4. It was released June 19th.
Yeah.
Right.
And it came out and the other one came out in August.
So X-Men 266 came out in July 10th. So they came out about 3.5-4 weeks apart. And in X-Men Annual 4, and there's a couple instances where this is happening, where in Marvel, where the stories are written under the assumption that they're going to appear in a certain chronological order, but then they get released out of the chronological order. So X-Men 266 is our introduction to Gambit. We get, we're having this, it's the full first appearance, not chronologically from our time, but within the story time of the books. That's where he first comes up. We get our proper introduction to him. Whereas in the Annual 4, he's all throughout. We have no introduction new, but he's having lines of conversation. He's talking.
At some point at it, he goes, "The man called Gambit." It says in there.
People refer to him, all this other stuff. But it's not. So it's a really screwy thing. And the Marvel story is that this character was meant to be introduced in X-Men 266 prior to the annual. But they got distributed out of whack. This happened again with the Black Suit Spider-Man, right?
Yes.
Black Suit Spider-Man is everybody will tell you, what is it? You don't know? Come on.
Oh, no, now you got me. Now you got me all. I was thinking something else. Sorry.
So so you have 252
252. There you go.
Amazing Spider-Man 252 is generally considered the first appearance of the black costume. Then Secret Wars 8 is the origin, which came out several months later, right? So we just all of a sudden had Spider-Man swinging around in this suit with no reason or explanation as to what's going on. But as Legion of Comics points out, in fact, from a timeline chronological release dates, the Marvel Team Up 141 that came out April 30th in 1984 versus 252, which came out 2 weeks later on May 10th. So Marvel Team Up 144 is actually the first black suit appearance in comics. And let me preface this before everyone starts correcting me here. When we say first appearance in comics, we're not going to count advertisements, letters to the editor, or any of those other
cards.
So records and other stuff. We're talking about part of the story appearance in comics, right?
Yes,
is what we're going to talk about here. We can all have this great debate about whether or not the black suit was seen in that letters page over here, and whether or not Harley Quinn's first appearance in comics was some stupid record read along story, etc., etc.
I'm with you, Mark. I think the annual is the first appearance. I mean, he's in the book in several of the the frames there. His name is said. It's not, and it came out a good month before the other one. So I don't know.
He had a conversation. It was a conversation. There's conversations with Storm.
Yes,
in the book. From a release date perspective, it is the first appearance. From the intended, this is almost like it needs a better explanation, much like the virus explanation that we get today, right? Where Venom 26 is the first released appearance.
Even CGC on the label says on the annual this, or on one of the two, I think it's the X-Men when it says predates annual whatever right on the CGC label. So they're going out of their way to let you know that this one predates the other one.
It was intended to be released before, and the stories came out different. But it's very much like I said, it's the virus thing where it talks about was meant to be the Free Comic Book Day was supposed to be the first appearance, but it actually came out afterwards because of COVID, et cetera, et cetera. So, absolutely, Legion of Comics. It's by the definition, you're right. The annual should be the first appearance. And this is why we said generally certain things apply, but then people accept other things or allow things to be dictated. And so the comic collector industry has said that they're going to go with the chronological story portion, and therefore Uncanny X-Men 266 is considered that first appearance. So what about Carnage cameo versus first appearance? Yeah. Carnage is another one of those where, again, I think you talk about what you're defining first appearance. The cameo is a first appearance, but it's a cameo appearance versus a full appearance. When much like the Venom appearance in 299 and 298, right? We have 298. You have just the hand, and then you have the full body at the end of the last panel of 299. Those are the first appearances in Cameo. You can remove that panel from the story, and it doesn't affect the story whatsoever.
That definition right there, a lot of people should listen to that because it makes a lot of sense. If you remove that quote cameo out of the book, does it remove anything from the story? No, it doesn't.
I mean,
if you remove it from the story and it does, or if you remove it from the book and it does, that should tell you it's a first appearance.
yeah, and then you can get really super complicated, guys, if you want to jump into the DC world, right? Because then we start talking about characters that are introduced and whether or not they're, yeah, don't worry, I'm not, my 361's right up there, buddy. I'm with you. When we start talking about Terry McGinnis and the Batman Beyond, right? Everybody's hype right now, and maybe this is why everybody has decided that the Batman Beyond issue 1 is the book to go after. It's because the first appearance of Batman Beyond is so muddy. And when we look at Batman Beyond issue number 1, first of all, Terry McGinnis is not wearing the Batman Beyond outfit in that he doesn't don it until the second issue. We get Bruce Wayne wearing the outfit and we just get introduced to Terry McGinnis there, but it's not, and it's credited as being Terry McGinnis's first appearance, but it's not. That happened in Batman 700. We get introduced to Terry McGinnis, right? And it's not the first time we get introduced to the Batman Beyond, because we get introduced to Batman Beyond in Superman Batman issues 22 and 23, and then the annual, right? Which is even gets more confusing, because in issues 22 and 23 of Superman Batman, we're talking about a person by the name of Tim in the costume. Most people assume that's Tim Drake donning it, because later on and I think it's like the third or fourth volume of Batman Beyond, we get introduced to the world where Tim Drake is the Batman Beyond as opposed to Terry McGinnis. Blah, blah. So we have that, and then we still have the Batman Beyond Superman annual, and it's all a giant cluster, which is why the big money book ends up being the first book in the title, because it's a mess. And you have the same thing with Harley Quinn. Any character first appearance should be credited in a preview magazine. Yeah, well, Miles Morales. Yeah, again, that's where we talk about what's our first appearance in comics, right? And I think that I agree with you 100%, Gary. The previews magazine is ridiculous. Also, along with that, we can talk about some of people's going off about. Let's take Ahsoka Tano. Okay. First, everyone's going crazy about Dark Horse Comics. Okay, those stories aren't canon. They're outside of the continuity. Yeah, the character shows up for the first time in comics, but is that the same thing as the first appearance within continuity? That's just much like the Harley Quinn stuff too, right? It gets really super confusing.
Yeah. it's all depending on who you're asking. It's really
and their decision based on what book they have, right?
And what book they have, exactly. If they have a book and it's in the debate, most of the time they're going to be like, if they're trying, especially if they're trying to sell it to you, they're going to be like, this is that, and you want this one more because it's the real one. So it's up arcade.
Then just to really mix it up here, right? Let's take Gwenpool. All right,
or the duck.
So Gwenpool, you talked about a character who, did I lose my notes on Gwenpool? But it was first appearance was actually in like the Howard the Duck, but it was Howard the Duck number 1, but that's not where people credit Gwenpool's first appearance.
No.
Gwenpool's first appearance is considered to be a variant cover for Deadpool's Secret Wars. Right?
Shouldn't Howard the Duck though be her first cover appearance, and she makes a little tiny cover appearance on the bottom?
I don't know. I'm just telling you what's kind of out there. That's for people to debate. And does a cover only appearance count as a first appearance? They're not part of the story whatsoever.
Sometimes the cover has nothing to do with the story.
Oftentimes the cover has nothing to do with the story.
So I don't know if I agree with the should a cover appearance mean anything, because there's a lot of times where I think a few of those Alex Ross covers, those timeless variants, that a character that has nothing to do with the comic that it's even in is on that book, right?
Right. Yeah. And then you can really get free kilo. Sorry, I'm backing up the thing. DC equals Disney and continuity. Yeah, that's because they let go of the continuity police. Except for in Harley Quinn, where they brought the continuity police back into the story. That was cool. For those of you guys who read Harley Quinn, sorry.
And speaking of DC, I heard through the grapevine, I read some articles, internet, it's always true, right? But I heard that DC was possibly considering, stopping stop the press, stop printing books and going digital. And then I read further on that, Jim Lee and kind of stepped in a little bit and had some stuff to say about that. It's really AT&T that really wanted, to get rid of it. But I don't know how I feel about that. I would be very sad if that happened.
Well, so that rumor's been kicked around for a while and has actually been changed up since then. I mean, we saw AT&T. They don't comic books aren't a big generation revenue source, and they've been talking about that for a while. And that was all kind of like before the big purge, and then the big purges helped to spur a lot of that. And now what you've kind of got this world where DC is, since those rumors initially came out, where they're, from a comic book profitability standpoint, they're actually doing okay. The reduced staff, the reduced print runs, the reduced number of titles, the reduced number of space that they're doing, people on staff, has allowed them to actually be profitable. Now, it's not profit that AT&T would like, but it's somewhat profitable. And so now we have a newer rumor that came out this week, or that's been circulating actually for a little bit, but really kind of gained some steam this week, as it's been kind of confirmed by several people that within the industry, not just Rob Liefeld, but also Jimmy Palmiotti and a couple others, that they've been hearing the same things. And everybody says, but nobody can name names yet, that several supposed very wealthy fans / creators / are people altogether are trying to work out a deal potentially with AT&T and Warner Brothers to acquire the publishing rights to the DC characters, that they wouldn't take over the licensing or anything else. They would basically just get the ability to do the publications of the stories and the books and whatnot, but that AT&T and Warner Brothers would still have the full capability to use the characters for TVs, movies, have the licensing rights for all the other stuff. So that this group is just going, let us, you guys don't want to do the comic creating, we do. Let us go write these stories, and you can take these stories. Now, I'm sure that they'll probably want to take any new stories that are done after that point, where there's some kind of buy back the story thing potentially in there, because that's what Liefeld's all about, right? And a lot of the splits for some of those guys was being able to control their content down the line. So I don't know. That was an interesting kind of parlay that went in with all that.
And the DC universe. I don't know if you subscribe to it, the where you can go on, you could read comics online. They used to have a bunch of TV shows. But I think all those shows got really transferred to the HBO Max, like Doom Patrol, Titans.
They shut down their streaming, and that was
that's what made me, like, after I read that, I was like, maybe this is true. I mean,
well, it was something they wanted. It was something that they want. They'd love to do it. They'd love to do if they had their way, Time Warner had their way, they would eliminate the comic book publishing. They would strictly put out comic stories via digital and trade paperback, because those methods are more profitable to them. I mean, think about it. I mean, I hate digital comics. I'm just going to say it out right now, though. And when I say I hate digital comics, I'm not saying it as in I've never tried it. Digital comics was actually my bridge to get back into comic books before, after I had my time off, I was reading them. But the reason I dislike them, other than touch, feel, and all the other stuff, is why am I still paying $4.99 for a freaking digital comic that I don't have a paper copy of? And
because
if they shut down
DC books and they cost $8.99 now. That's another thing that's driving me nuts. DJ Links brought it up in his video. Why am I paying $9 DC for a comic book,
Because you
and
are.
I'm paying $4 for a Marvel comic book.
And not just that, you're buying 2 copies or 2 or 3 copies because we're buying multiple covers because
Yeah, I'm
we're
paying
afraid of
$18 for my
I
Batman
don't
book.
know which cover is going to be the cover that's going to be big. We're all doing it, whether that's our reasoning or not that we admit to. It's deep down.
Right, it is, but I still buy them. I mean, I'll complain about it all day, but I still buy them.
Yeah, if you think about it, I mean, look, comic books were supposed to be a kid's thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you pay your kids an allowance. Can your kid could your kids go afford to go buy comics every week
No.
on their allowance? I couldn't.
When I go to the comic book shop, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but when I go to the comic book shop, like the real comic book shop, I expect every time I go there, you ask Super Jesse, I expect to spend anywhere from $100 to $125 every time. And that's if I get a few random things on top of my pull list.
Yeah, I was very happy to get out for like $55 this week.
Comic books, yeah, no kids can afford to go to the comic book shop nowadays. Not if they're DC fans.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, right now though, the $8, $9 price points, Legion points out, they're pumping in extra content into these books within this 2-month period here. This is supposed to be a temporary price increase on these titles. We shall see once, of course, they see how people have continued to buy and whatever else, whether or not it becomes something that is sustained or not. Oftentimes, many of these temporary tests are meant to become something else.
Yeah.
So
I get it paying for, like, say, a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Last Ronin, $8.99. I get that. It's a bigger book. It's a bigger size. Am I still going to buy the Future State books? Yes, I'm absolutely going to buy them. I love them. I'm going to pay $8.99. I'm going to buy multiple covers. Do I like it? Would I rather pay $4.99 for them? Sure. I get it. There's more stories, but like the first couple stories are usually pretty good, but like that last story in them, it just kind of like, yeah.
I usually don't read the subsequent stories. Comic Burrito there, digital comics for using the library. You know, I do have. I would say that perchance I could see myself using it on occasion in some of my older books or my slabbed books. I want to go back and reread them and whatnot. But I also pick up trades sometimes for that. I mean, I just picked up a complete run of all the Spider-Gwen trades so I can go back and read all the original old stuff without cracking into my pristine books or trying to crack a slab or something. I could have bought the omnibus, but I did the math because I'm a frugal son of a gun sometimes and found out I could buy all the trade paperbacks and save $40 over the cost of the omnibus and get for the exact same story content. But
I've been buying a lot of
I've got a
trades
stack
myself.
of these things.
Like
anyways,
the Something is Killing the Children.
Yeah.
I don't want to open any of those books and read them. They're too valuable right now. So when the trade paperbacks came out, I was like, yay, I could read them. What's up, Taylor Winder?
Hey. So we're at
Taylor Winder.
As we're coming up on the back end of our time slot here. Yeah, pro distance, antisocial. I didn't
Tell
wear
you a lot about me.
I didn't wear my evildoer shirt today. I wore it yesterday. I want to make people think I change my clothes every once in a while.
I was gonna wear mine, but I figured you would be wearing yours, and I didn't want to match.
That's why one of us needs to have a good doer or do-gooder. I'm not even sure what it is.
It's a do-gooder, and I don't think either one of us are do-gooder enough to wear it.
My mustache says I'm not.
No.
Anyways, the other piece of news I came across I thought was big and to me was the rumor that came across that the Illuminati may be making its appearance in the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness or whatever the hell all the M's and names go together is. But team of evildoers. There you go. Almost like a legion of evildoers. Wait, no, sorry. That the Illuminati will show up, and that means if you're not familiar with the Illuminati is a big think group, controlled Marvel Universe, blah blah blah. Doctor Strange, Professor X, Reed Richards, Submariner. We're talking about these characters now potentially showing up in the Doctor Strange movie as the Illuminati, so we can talk about all of a sudden if that is true. now that is our foot in the door for our Fantastic Four, our X-Men, and the Submariner, who we've been teasing forever, which would just make me go crazy and excited to see Submariner finally show up and see some love to my my books.
That would be cool. I'd like to see Marvel redo the Fantastic Four and do it well for a change myself.
Black Bolt would be Black Bolt too. Yeah.
Black Bolt, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
all right,
maybe
guys.
we can introduce the Inhumans the right way.
Yeah. Well, that'll be our show for tonight. Stick to that 30-minute time frame. Next week, we'll have a new topic, and it'll be on Rob's channel. So
make sure you subscribe, like, hit the bell, ring my bell. Wait, oh, sorry.
Oh, my goodness. You guys, DJ, do something with that. Get that video clip and do something with that. Until next time, Comic Book World, slot it up.
Do it, click what you like. Don't listen to anyone, including myself. I'm just a fat man with a fat stack of comics and a fat opinion. Thanks.
Peace.